Gaming's perpetual window into the future, the Deus Ex franchise has long been regarded as one of the most innovative series ever created. We're looking back at the iconic franchise and getting an inside look at what's coming next. I'm Naomi Kyle, and this is DX15.
I think something's going on here.
After all the critical acclaim and success of the original, Warren Spector and his team were eager to build on their momentum. And in 2003, Deus Ex Invisible War was released. Set in 2072, it took place 20 years after the events of the first game. Today we learn more about the more mature tone and the creator's feelings on the future of Deus Ex.
Sounds like a plan to me.
With Invisible War, the primary motivation was to make the game more accessible. We wanted to reach even more people. And the first game, it was pretty hardcore. We were making a game for ourselves, and we were all pretty hardcore gamers. But I always felt that making a game where if the shooting is too hard for you, don't shoot, try something else. If the sneaking is too hard for you, don't sneak, try something else. And I always thought that was a really mainstream idea.
Just making the world safer, one mad scientist at a time.
In Invisible War, we really wanted the player to be more important than the story.
Yeah, one thing we tried to do is bring the player even closer into the story by letting the player define who the main character is. The player's hometown is destroyed at the beginning of the game, and part of the motivation of that was to let the player really put themselves into the story and try to make it their own. By 2072, anything could happen, and almost everything does in Invisible War, I think. We started with the notion that all of the end games happened from the first game, so a cataclysm had already happened. And that put us into a world that was hugely shaken up and completely different than anything we know today. And I think that in itself put the player in a very strange place.
The haves and have-nots element is an important part of our world today. It was an undercurrent in the first game, but it became a very important part of the second one.
Right around the time we were building Invisible War, there were protests against the WTO, and those are pretty literally translated into 70 years in the future, with Seattle being stratified, with the World Trade Organization having little enclaves of cities that they control.
And religious strife, too. I mean, you could see the rise of the religious right when we were working on that game, and so a lot of that entered into the storyline.
Yeah, I've been completely impressed by the way the IDOS team has approached the franchise with what seems to me like complete reverence. They've taken apart the DNA of the original game and thought really hard about the content of the story, how to make it political and cerebral, at the same time as being a dramatic story.
The Deus Ex games, Human Revolution, was about something, and I was really, really happy about that. And I really felt empowered as a player. I hope it's still going in 15 more years, and I really hope that whoever is making Deus Ex games in the future, that they really build on the idea of empowering players.
Give the player real choice instead of just, oh, well, we're just going to drag you along and kind of pretend that you have control, but you really don't.
Sharing authorship with players is the thing that games can do that no other medium can do. And so we have to do that better and better and better.
Well, that wraps up our time with the original creators. Be ready for the next chapter, where we sit down with the developers at Eidos Montreal, who brought Deus Ex back to life after 8 long years with Human Revolution.